on Natural State Sports, your top source for the biggest news in high school sports across Arkansas.
Here we go.
What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining us on episode 14 of Arkansas Preps Weekly. My name's Kyle Sutherland, alongside the baseball guru, and this is the final episode of the, oh my gosh, I did it again. The softball guru. Y'all are gonna you're gonna have to excuse me tonight. We're recording late. It's been a long weekend, been a long Monday as well, and we've already done the baseball episode earlier today. So I did that 2 weeks in a row. The softball guru, Mr. Jared Hawthorn. I didn't even notice it until I saw the smile on your face, Jared. But nonetheless, it is the last bit of coverage that we are doing for the 2024 softball season. What a season it was. We wrapped it up with the Weekend of Champions in Conway over the weekend and had some blowouts. That's going to happen some, but we had a couple of really good ones. Had a controversial one that we'll discuss. But Jared, crazy, as I told Kevin on the episode earlier for baseball, that the actual baseball guru, that it's always fun to, once we get to state championship weekend, it's very bittersweet because it's the end of a season, but just crazy to me that we wrapped up year 3 of our coverage together.
Well, first off, let me point out that I haven't been drinking tonight, but so no, I'm excited about getting to recap a little bit of the state tournament for sure. But can't believe that it's the end of the season. We're already wrapping up, but I'm excited about some stuff that we're going to be talking about later that's coming up in the works, and going to see if we can keep a little softball rolling a little more year round.
That's right. Yeah, we got a big announcement coming at the end of the show, so make sure you stay. And I'll go ahead and watermark that for those that don't want to wait until the end. I'll put those on there, or not watermark it. I guess that's when you really put a graphic on a picture. I will go ahead and put it in the table of contents, put the time on there, so that way you know where it is and you can listen. I'll probably post the clip individually on our social medias as well. But if you are watching on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed if you are not, or you do subscribe if you're not already. And make sure and hit that notification button because, like I said, we are going to continue these episodes on into the season, on into the summer. And, man, I really am drinking tonight. On into the summer, and you'll know whenever we release an episode. So make sure you do that. And you can also subscribe on the audio versions, Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio. We're on there. So before we do get started, I want to tell you about our friends at Athletic Field Service of Arkansas, because a properly graded infield is not only important for player safety, but the field's health. No company in the state can match the exceptional service and dedication like our friends at Athletic Field Service of Arkansas in Sherwood. From infield renovation, lip removal and edging, mound rehab, laser leveling, and much more, Jeremy Rice and his crew have you covered. Call Jeremy at 501-416-1218. That's 501-416-1218 today for your free evaluation and consultation. And you can check them out on Facebook or see what else they have to offer online by searching Athletic Field Service of Arkansas. Athletic Field Service of Arkansas, we got the dirt on your infield. Started off in Class 6A. Bentonville is back on top of the mountain. They beat their 6A West foe, Springdale Harbor, 1-0. There's been a lot of low-scoring games between those two. Actually, Bentonville won both in the regular season, 1-0 coincidentally, and then also 4-1. But, Jared, really, this was just the Ryan Sanders show. Of course, you got to give credit to Kylie Wyman for batting in that run, which was Marissa Gianeschi in I think that was the 4th or 5th inning. That's the one box score I don't have in front of me that I'm about to pull up here in a second. But what an incredible performance by just this Bentonville Tiger team, and just the way that they handled everything throughout their season. They started 2-3. A team that started 7 freshmen and sophomores. The only 2 returners we talked about it were Amber Turner and Ryan Sanders. Ryan Sanders, of course, won her second state tournament MVP in the past 2 seasons. But this is probably, and I mentioned this on Facebook, this is probably the best coaching job, at least as long as I've covered him or followed him, by Ken Early this year. Because to win a state championship in these conditions, offensively, it just wasn't there some of the times this year compared to what they're used to. Now, they hit about 25 home runs, I believe it was this year, and Coach Early will tell you that's usually double what they're used to. Usually you close to hitting, 45, 50 range. So it was not typical Bentonville as far as those teams that have won the state championships in the past. This one was done with really pitching and grit and some youngsters stepping up. So I'll go ahead and let you talk about the game, and I want to talk about Ryan Sanders here for a second because we've mentioned her throughout this year, but I think the kind of off year that she had last year, and off compared to her sophomore year and this year at least, it wasn't bad by any means. But, I think that she was kind of a forgotten pitcher in this state, but definitely want to give our credit to Bentonville because they won their 5th state championship since 2006, or I'm sorry, actually their 6th state championship since 2016, which is the 6th in school history.
Well, I only got to see part of this game. I didn't get to go watch any of the games for the championship games live this week, which I was very disappointed in. Daggum work calls, sometimes you got to pay the bills. But I did watch parts of all of the games on the PBS live stream, and I got to watch all of some of the games. And this one I only got to watch a small part of, but everything that I saw from what little bit I got to see on the live stream and then looking back at the play-by-play and the box scores, I mean, it was absolutely a pitcher's duel, and looking at what Ryan Sanders did was amazing. She pitched an exceptional game. But on the flip side of that, I want to make sure I'm saying this, is it Sierra Dots? Make sure I'm saying her
Yes, Sierra Dots.
name correct. Okay, Sierra Dots. She had a great game also. I mean, really, honestly, 1-0 ball game, just lots of great pitching. What little bit I got to see, I saw several really good defensive plays. And so I know you were there, and I'm going to let you speak to the game a little bit more, but that's the big thing for me is just going back and looking at what I did get to see out of this game. Everything looks like pitching and defense, and for Kylie Wyman to get that, very important one run across, that was a really big deal.
Yeah, that was in the 4th inning. I couldn't remember if it was the 4th or the 5th, but that's exactly right. It was a pitcher's duel, and you certainly got to give your credit to Sierra Dots. We started talking about her around mid-March because that was when I had really found out about her. Coming into the season, that was the automatic assumption that it was going to be Anison Wright was going to be their number one, and she did pitch for them, but she was more so she played a lot of first and was their top bat, one of their top bats, but I think she actually did lead them in home runs and a lot of the offensive categories. But Sierra came in as a freshman, and then also now I did find out Xiomara Sanchez. Now that I just mentioned, I called her X Sanchez, I believe it was last week, because I wasn't exactly sure how to pronounce her name. Now, even though I lived in San Antonio, I cannot roll my R's still, so I'm not even going to try to do that. But we'll just we'll keep it at Xiomara Sanchez, who is an exceptional catcher, Jared. She was named All-State Tournament, batted like 600, and I said last week that her and Sierra are going to be one of the better batteries in the state over the next few years, and I wholeheartedly believe for the next 3 years they're going to be a special combination. Sierra, you got to really admire the way that anytime that a freshman pitcher comes in and contributes that many innings for you and is your starter pretty much every day, just about. That says something, especially at the state's highest classification, and especially to do it when you're on TV in the state finals. Most of the state did not predict you to be there. And again, this is a team that we knew had a lot of talent, but they were about a year away in most people's eyes. But when you have the kind of coaching that you do there and you have this talent that is, yes, maybe pretty young, but by this point in the season, whether you're a freshman, your classification doesn't matter. Sophomore, freshman, whatever it may be. You are a seasoned vet at this point if you've played throughout the season. So all the credit in the world to Sierra Dots. Made sure to get her on our top performers list this week just because of she ended up striking out 5 on the game. She allowed just 5 hits. So, but Ryan Sanders, I want to say this. I was crunching some numbers over the weekend, Jared, and I didn't even tell you this yet, but I think that hands down, now I'm not talking about, rankings wise or anything like that, but this season, to me, Ryan Sanders was the best player in the state because you think about just the state, let's take the state championship teams. Maybe with the exception of the state winners, not just the finalists, maybe with the exception of Allison Edwards at Mansfield, I think that no single player really was the reason why they won a state championship the way that Ryan Sanders was. And what I mean was you look at Sheridan, for instance. I'll single out Skylar Sterrett. She's known for her speed, but she's an exceptional ball player. I think if you take Skylar Sterrett off that team or Mary Lim off that team, Sheridan probably still wins a state championship. Callie Kilburn, Cooper Terry. You take one of those players, I think they probably still win a state championship. Same thing with Farmington. 7, 8 seniors that were starting. And we'll talk about these teams obviously as we go down, and then so forth and so forth. But to me, it's just and Coach Early, I think, will tell you as well, they don't win a state championship without Ryan Sanders in the circle. Every conversation that Coach Early and I had throughout this season, whether it be about lineups, whether it be about offense, whether it be about fielding, every single conversation just about led to, I don't know what's going to happen, but if we have Ryan Sanders in the circle, we always have a chance. And to me, she was the best player in the state when we're just talking about individually and how much they meant to their team.
I agree with that. And I'll say this, softball is absolutely about pitching. Yes, you have to have hitting, you have to have defense, you have to have all the parts to go with it. But you can have every other part, and if you take away pitching, you can throw it out the window. And so, yes, you see a lot of players who play other positions. Sometimes they get their feelings hurt when you say, "Oh, the pitcher's the most important player on the team," or things like that. It's just the truth. And a great pitcher can't do anything without a great supporting cast. They can't do it without hitting. They can't do it without defense. They can't do it without base running. But you can, like I said, you can have every other part and have no chance without a solid pitcher. Whereas you can take a really exceptional pitcher and put her on an average team and you have a chance. So, because you can just control the other side's ability to score. And that's a kind of a cynical way of looking at it, but it's just when you really analyze the game without pitching, it's everything. And when you talk about Ryan Sanders and what she means to Bentonville, she is very important. She is the thing that makes it all go. She has a great supporting cast. She has some defense with, a really good defense with her. She has, at times, has had good hitting this year. It wasn't what they are used to, but it's come through at the times that they needed it to come through. She's had all the other things with the other players around her that she needed, but without her, it sure doesn't go.
Doubt. I couldn't agree more. And I mean, I think that, again, last year probably was a little bit, and I don't want to make that out to be like she had a bad season, but just compared to what she did her sophomore year and this year, it was just not, she was under, I think both her sophomore year and this year. I know this year she was under 1 ERA. She was around like the 1.73-ish range last year, I believe, something like that. So just an incredible career overall that she had, and really just couldn't have capped it in a better way, and is going to do some big things for the University of Louisville. So it was fun to see her one last time. But heading down to 5A, speaking of Skylar Sterrett, in this game, she hit that leadoff triple, Jared, and just sprinted around the bases, set the tone right there. The offense added a few more runs after that, or gets 4 more runs to be exact. And Callie Kilburn in the circle, she just did the rest. 10 strikeouts in a complete game performance. That last at bat, I forget who BB had batting, but that was an 11-pitch at bat, only 1 ball. So a lot fouled off, and they were really battling. Got to give credit to BB for continuing to do that, which doesn't shock you the way that this team just scrapped all year and really got on a roll and made it to the finals. But look, Sheridan, I think you had said it pretty much from beginning to end. I had said that I really liked them, but I'd felt that there may have been 1 or 2 teams that might have been right up there with them. But they proved, even though that their last 2 games before the finals came down to a walk-off, I still think that really it was them by a long shot at this point. I think I got to give you your due credit. You had said that for a long time, and they won their 6th consecutive state championship. And, hey, this team was really loose before. They got there about 5 o'clock. I was chopping it up with Coach Hoppin for a bit. They're out there dancing on the field and were just as relaxed as they could be, and they translated that over.
Well, this is their 6th state championship, not consecutive. But
all right, 6th state championship. They won 4 consecutive, 6th all time. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about the consecutive state championships when we get down to 1A.
That's right.
But definitely, Sheridan is just so talented. And I'm going to be honest with you, there's a lot of these players that we didn't even mention a lot individually throughout the year, because we always talk about Skylar. Yeah, we talked about Skylar Sterrett and Mary Liam and Cooper Terry and Callie Kilborn, but Chloe Ashmead and Mason Wilson and Jaden Ashcraft. Just everywhere you look, there's just so much talent. I was looking back, I was glancing at the box score from this game, and I did get to watch, a pretty good part. I didn't get to watch the entire game, but I got to watch a pretty good part of this one. And Jaden Ashcraft she was on at the plate for this game, and she has been most of the season. And we probably should have mentioned her name a lot more this year, looking at what she's done. But I'm going to talk briefly on the Sheridan side about Callie Kilborn. I have watched her more times than I care to admit over the last 2 or 3 years, because a lot of times it was against my team in travel ball. She is just a really exceptional pitcher. She has a lot of talent and a lot of ability, but I'll tell you the thing that impresses me the most about Callie Kilborn is she doesn't ever seem to really get rattled. Even when you get to her for a base hit here and there, and that's pretty rare, she just seems to be so even keeled and such a competitor, and just like she has that mindset, that mentality that you look for in a pitcher, that she's going to go do work and she's going to have a next pitch mentality. And she has an incredible amount of talent to go with it, and a lot of movement and a lot of crazy stuff to try to figure out at the plate. But her mindset and her mental toughness and just the competitor that she is what makes her really special as a ball player to me. Same thing with Cooper Terry, and I know Cooper didn't pitch in this game, but having watched, those two perform all year for Sheridan, they're both have just that killer instinct in the circle, and they never seem to really get rattled, and they really just go to work. And then when on the flip side, you got two exceptional pitchers at BB with Lexi Delaney and Jordy Leopard, that both have just done a great job all year. They both pitched well in this game, but when you're pitching against some of a murderer's row of Sheridan's lineup, and they didn't even give up a lot of hits, but they gave up enough. And Sheridan's aggressive enough on the bases, and they just punish you once they get there. You just can't give up anything if you want to have a chance against them. It was a really good ball game. A lot of talent on both sides of the ball. I'll tell you the other thing that was really impressive to me was when you look at the box score was, Phoebe Caldwell.
I was going to say that exact same thing.
Tatum Howell. Yeah. They both had 3 hits. It was
when do you ever see that in a shutout? I mean, you never see two people go 3 for 3, but especially when in a shutout. I was going to point out that exact same thing.
I was looking at that, and I was thinking when I was watching it, I was like, well, she had a hit last at bat.
Yeah.
She had a hit last at bat. And then I was like, holy cow, these two are on fire. If BB could have found just a couple, 2 or 3 more hits to go with it, they might have been in good shape.
Yeah.
I've been really impressed with BB all year. They've had a great year. They had great pitching. They've definitely had their struggles a little bit at the plate, but they found their bats later in the year, and it really kind of got them on a roll. And they, played either great defense at times. A couple games they didn't play the greatest defense, but they've had a really good year. The Sheridan is just I said it from the start of the year, and I've said it all year. Sheridan has just been exceptional all season long, and it was no surprise to me how this turned out. And that's not a knock at all against BB, because they're an extremely talented team and a really good ball team. But Sheridan just seemed to kind of have that from the word go. It's like, yeah, they're probably going to win it all.
I want to tell this story about Kilburn, and then we'll move down to 4A. So I called Hoffman on Saturday I was asking him a question, not even softball related, and then we got, of course, talking about the game. And he brought up her sophomore year, which Cooper's freshman year, when they rode Cooper quite a bit before the injury, of course. Well, so Cooper, if you remember, she threw 2 shutouts in that the state tournament. I think it was Paragould and Valonia in the first round and semifinals. So they come into the semis against Greene County Tech. So Greene County Tech comes in. Cooper's pretty gassed. They smoke her. I mean, they tear her up pretty bad. She gets pulled. Callie comes in, throws 18 consecutive balls, just about as disastrous of an outing as you could think of. Just things did not go well. She comes to the dugout, obviously is not in a great headspace. So you think about it, you go from that kid, her sophomore year, to all the injuries that she battled in her junior season, and to come back and do what she did her senior season. And also, too, what Coop did. That was tough to experience as a freshman. You know, I mean, again, I think a big reason why what happened against Greene County Tech was because she was more, and not to take anything away from Greene County Tech, but she was also pretty gassed. But she came back from that, and like Coop did, went through her injury, comes back, has an incredibly strong junior year, and that's exactly what Callie did. She goes from throwing 18 balls to going through injuries her junior year, and now the state championship, state final, MVP, whatever you want to call it. 10 strikeouts in the game, was really just dominant. They couldn't hardly touch her. So that is a great story. Both Coop and Callie, their stories for any athlete that might be struggling. You might be in a slump at the plate. You might have had a rough year fielding, whatever it may be. It might be a pitcher that gave up a lot more than you wanted to. You just really didn't have your stuff at times this year. Those are two great stories to look at right there, just to show do not ever give up.
Absolutely. Those two are both very inspiring as far as their stories and the backstories that go with them. I'll tell you, I know enough about Cooper Terry and the health battles and the injuries and the things that she's gone through. That's a testament to that kid's heart and grit and everything that she has in her, that she has overcome so much. And I know less about, Callie's injuries. I know she's been injured, but definitely, all of these, if you're a pitcher for very long, you're going to have injuries because it's just a brutal, road that you're walking. You're having to work all the time. You're having to work year round. You're having to throw bullpens. You're having to run and lift and do all the things that it takes to stay in shape and you're going to get hurt. You're going to have injuries. And definitely the great ones figure out how to work through it and come back and have those kind of stories where they have a great finish, or a great game in the state championship. Those are the kids who have that heart and grit and they push through. You see a lot of kids when it gets tough and they get hurt, you'll see them walk away from the game. But the great ones come back and they work hard and they compete. And those two are definitely two of the great ones.
Then down in Class 4A, and this one turned out to be a really good one. It was looking like that it just was going to be a pretty much runaway for Farmington. I had the honor of calling this with my good friend Bobby Swafford on PBS Arkansas. It was great to be back on TV. I know that I've got a face for radio, as people have told me my whole life, but that was my first time back on TV since the 2021 football final, so it was a lot of fun calling that. But 6-5 win over Pea Ridge. These two teams knew each other really well. Pea Ridge beat Farmington in the regular season twice. And, Jared, when I was doing my prep for this, I noticed that Farmington, of all the teams that Pea Ridge played, they were one of the few actually that was able to jump on Emory for the most part. In one game, they got 12 hits off her, and the other, I think it was 7 or 8. So that was one thing that I was really looking for coming into this. And look, Farmington got off to a hot start. They just put a few runs on the board here and there. The next thing you know, they're up to a 5-0 lead, and they're leading, 6-0, I guess, heading into the 7th. And Bobby and I, at this point, we're pretty much just filling time. We're talking just about the next game, which was 6A later that day, just kind of talking about the day before. And then all of a sudden, they come on this run. Pea Ridge does. They get a run on the board. Then, of course, Callie Cooper, they get 2 runs on the board. Callie Cooper hit that 3-run bomb, and then Emory just about hit one out to tie it. So definitely a heartbreaking end, but certainly got to tip your cap for the fight. That you're talking about just a second ago, athletes that when adversity hits, they just some of them tend to walk away from the game, which, can't ever blame them in some cases. But in this case, it was a team deal, and they could have quit and laid down. But that, again, as well as these two teams know each other, how many times that they've played, whether it be these girls in travel ball or on the high school scene, that they were going to fight until the very last out. And I even said on the broadcast when Callie came up to bat, if anybody is going to get this thing within a 1-run game, it's going to be her. This is her 3rd state finals that she's playing in. Of course, Pea Ridge made the finals the first time in her freshman year, then now her junior and senior year. So a great fight by this Pea Ridge team. An incredible season. I think that they'll be right back in the thick of things. They're still a very young team. They got a lot of returners coming back. Farmington, they're going to pretty much start all over. They're going to graduate 8 or 9 seniors, but they've still got Morgan Reeves back in the circle. Another stud freshman like we talked about with 6A and Sierra Dotts. Morgan pitched an incredible game. She was as poised as could be. She got MVP honors. So I know that's going to be, not to look too far ahead, but Coach Shiree will be glad to have everything starting with her next year. But these seniors, they went out on top for Farmington and added another one to the dynasty.
Well, the one thing that I credit a lot of Farmington being able to get to Emory Bowling to is the relationship between Morgan Ewer and Emory Bowling. I think Morgan's given a scouting report back to the Farmington players.
She's done well against Emory, but like you said, she knows her well.
They play all summer together every summer. They're best friends. Morgan knows more about Emory's pitching than probably anybody other than maybe her catcher. And so I think Morgan has started to figure out some of Emory's pitching, and she started sharing it with her teammates because they're definitely, Farmington has gotten to Emory better than anybody in the state has, because Emory has, without a doubt, had possibly either the best or top 3 best, career so far through her junior season as anybody in the state of Arkansas. And she's been able to shut down team after team after team, but it seems like Farmington kind of has a little bit of her number. And, of course, there's a lot of great hitters at Farmington, so that's a big part of that. I think scouting report for Morgan is a little of it. And, Emory's been an exceptional pitcher all year. She didn't have her greatest game, but I'll tell you another thing, and I'm not criticizing umpires here, so I don't want you to think that. But when I was watching it, one of the things that I thought watching it is the zone was just a little bit tight watching, and it was both ways, so I'm not saying it was one-sided, but the zone was just a little bit tight, and it favored hitters. Because when a pitcher's got to bring their pitches in a little bit more, it just makes it a little bit easier for hitters. And I was definitely seeing a lot of, especially rise balls from Emory, that were not getting called, and they were right at the top of the zone, that in a lot of games this year she was getting those calls. She had to squeeze everything in just a little bit more than normal, and she got hit just a little bit more than normal for her. So, but I'll tell you another thing, if they'd been playing on just a hair shorter field, it might have been a different ball game, because there was at least 3 balls that were hit by Pea Ridge that were right at the fence that could have been game changers. Definitely a really good game. Morgan Reeves impressed the heck out of me.
Yeah,
she impressed the heck out. But here was my first impression, because I hadn't seen her in person before. When they first showed her on camera, I thought, man, she's really young. She looks like she's about 13. And then I saw her pitch, and I was like, well, she doesn't pitch like she's 13. She pitches like she's 21. So she did a great job. Really put on a great performance for Farmington side. I was very impressed with her. That's the first time that I've really got, other than a few clips, that's the first time that I really got to watch her pitch. And I was very impressed with Morgan Reeves. So, yeah, great job by Farmington. They hit the ball well. Pea Ridge has been exceptional all year. Emory's been exceptional all year. Just couldn't quite finish it at the end when they made the comeback. But it was a great game.
Yeah, that was my second time to see Morgan. I told you, and I've mentioned on here and, of course, on the broadcast, that I got to see her first start against Harbor in the Farmington tournament final, and she made some freshman mistakes. It's going to happen. But what I was really impressed, she had a good outing in that one. I think she struck out 4 or 5 in 5 innings or something like that. But in the final, what I was really impressed about, I think it was in the 3rd and 4th inning. The 3rd inning, she got or maybe it was the 4th and 5th, but one of them she got a leadoff on. Pea Ridge got a leadoff on. She got out of that, and then I want to say she got 2 in scoring position, like on 2nd and 3rd, and obviously it'd be on 2nd and 3rd, but got out of that as well. So that kind of stuff didn't phase her. We see all the time, they might give up a single, no big deal. Or you do really well, you strike out, your defense plays really well. And that's the thing that with her strikeouts weren't going to impress you coming into the game. In 70-some-odd innings, I think it was 78, she had around 34 strikeouts. But that's one thing that Coach Shiree had pointed out was the way that she positions her pitch, the way that she hits her spots, it creates weak contact. And when you have the kind of defense that she had behind her with all those seniors that we've already mentioned, and I didn't mention mine, Reese Shirey, I know just right here, Katie Fleming, Reese Shirey, Mallory Sills, Bella Holsey, Justine Davidson, Amaya Carr, Kinley Meek, Kennedy Briggs. I know that's a really, really lengthy class that has contributed a lot of innings for this team, and not just are great at the plate, but defensively. So I think that has definitely helped Morgan a lot. Now, look, there may be some growing pains in that regard next year because, she is going to have a lot on her as a sophomore, being one of the few back that has the amount of innings that she does. But like you talked about a second ago, everything starts in the circle. So Coach Shirey, even though he's losing as much as he is, he's still got this one coming back.
Yeah, I was looking at the group of seniors there, and I was blown away about how much experience they had, and I definitely, it'll be interesting to see what they do next year because they lose so much. But when you got Morgan Reeves back, you got a really good starting point to work from. She just, like I said, I was very impressed. It's the first time I got to really watch her, a full game, and not in person, but watching it live on PBS, and I was extremely impressed, and I would love to have that as a starting point. If you got to replace a lot of stuff, that's a great starting point for a coach. Because without the pitching, it doesn't go. So you got the one part that helps make it go.
Yeah. Then before we head down to Class 3A, I want to remind everybody about our friends at Athletic Field Service of Arkansas, because a properly graded infield is not only important for player safety, but also the field's health. And no company in the state can match the exceptional service and dedication like our friends at Athletic Field Service of Arkansas in Sherwood. From infield renovation, lip removal and edging, mound rehab, laser leveling, and much more, Jeremy Rice and his crew have you covered. Call Jeremy at 501-416-1218. That's 501-416-1218 today for your free evaluation and consultation, or you can check them out on Facebook or possibly see what they have to offer online by searching Athletic Field Service of Arkansas. Athletic Field Service of Arkansas, we got the dirt on your infield. Class 3A, Jared Hackett just they imposed their will. Now Lincoln, they had a really tough night defensively. Let's call it like it is. There was, especially in that third inning at the bottom of the third, they gave up 4 runs to Hackett after giving up a run in the first, and that was pretty much, for the most part, what did them in. Now they did score 2 runs. I believe it was in the 6th. Let me check my notes here. So it was actually at the top of the 6th. So they put a little bit of a dent in it, but then Hackett put another 4 spot up in the bottom of the 6th inning to close that thing out before it got to the 7th. But hats off to those Lady Hornets, man. I know that they were close the past 2 years. They went to the semifinals, came up short in those, but this time they made sure to finish. Last year they had beaten Boonville twice and then lost to them, were blanked in the semifinals. And that was one thing Coach Oxford had talked about when I talked to him before the preview last week, was really just, we can't let our guard down. Just because we've beat this team 3 times does not mean anything. Anytime that you've got Brinkley Morton in the circle and they've had other girls step up, you just cannot ever overlook that team. But it just was not the night for the Lincoln Lady Wolves, and it was for Hackett. Hackett really just tore their way through the postseason for the most part. They were the 3A4 regular season champions. They were their district tournament champion, regional champion, and now state champion for the first time in school history.
Well, they've been impressive all year. They've, in my opinion, been the best team in 3A all year long. They've looked like a powerhouse. Mackenzie Freeman has been, exceptional in the circle. They've had the bats. They've had everything going for them. They definitely, and they played a tough schedule, a fairly tough schedule to prepare them to get ready for state tournament run. This game especially, it's kind of tough to watch when you see that many mistakes on defense. Lincoln just didn't quite, they did not have the defense they needed to have to be able to stay competitive in this game. Outside of a lot of defensive mistakes, they probably had a chance to be in this ball game. But when you give up 12 runs and only 2 of them are earned, it's tough to, but it happens, no matter how good a team you are and how great a run you've had, every once in a while you just have a day when it doesn't work the way it's supposed to work, you know. And some of those, even though they were scored with error, they were on tough balls. You know, they were on do or die balls and on things like that. And there was a couple that were scored errors that to me were maybe not errors, you know, may have been more hits, but it was definitely, you know, I'll say this, watching them stay in the game as far as they never quit for Lincoln. You know, they were still battling. They worked hard and they got those couple runs there late, and it looked like they might try to chip back in and make a ball game of it before Hackett put up four more. You know, I was impressed with Lincoln's, you know, grit and wanting to just go for everything they had, and definitely Brinkley Morton. You know, she's an exceptional player. She went out there and she pitched her guts out and she did everything she could try to do. And you know, it was a day when they made a few mistakes on the defensive side, especially, and give a lot of credit to Mackenzie Freeman for keeping them off balance at the plate. You know, you have three or four really good hitters on that Lincoln lineup, and she kept them off balance and kept the runs off the board.
Yeah, I don't think I mentioned it was in 6 innings, but I don't think I said the score 12-2. I might have, but I didn't think I did. But as you said, Mackenzie Freeman, an exceptional performance in 6 innings, only those 2 earned runs, and then struck out 7. Also had a big day at the plate. Had, I know, at least 1 double, maybe 2, but also Mikey Freeman, her sister, had a big game. So definitely a big day for the Freeman family. Of course, Bridget, the head volleyball coach, their mom is the assistant for Coach Oxford. So definitely a big day. And man, you know, you look at Morgan Coryell at third base. What a addition she's been at leadoff. She had 2 RBI in the game. As I said, Mikey Freeman, she had 2 hits. And then Eva Thornburg, 3 for 4, 3 RBIs. So big game. Arva Bardmeyer had 2 runs scored. So just a complete performance, 1 through 9. And as you said, it's just they proved that I think them and Atkins, me personally, I think those were the 2 best teams. I think that semifinal game was very reflective of kind of the seasons that both of those 2 teams had. And the 3-1 victory by Hackett, it was 0-0 through 7. But like you said, Hackett proved they are the best. But I mean, I'll tell you, of course, by the time that this comes out, the rankings will be out. But that's the reason why we've got Hackett 1, Atkins 2. We just feel like with the strength of schedule overall, and I think Atkins might have a head-to-head over Lincoln, but either way, I think Atkins probably just with the strength of schedule and just the way that they were able to, I don't want to say competed because I'm not going to say Lincoln didn't compete, but the way that Atkins hung with Hackett, the way that it did through 7 innings and just battled them to 9, that really to me kind of said it. But yeah, Atkins, Hackett to me were the top 2 teams, but Hackett proved that it is the best.
Yeah, I've watched Hackett all year long. I've got to see clips of them on Game Changer. I watched probably 4 or 5 different games, and then I got to see quite a bit of that game on PBS, and definitely Hackett was just very impressive. They were impressive all year. They were impressive in that game. Hats off to them. They had a great year.
Then down in Class 2A, a rematch of last year's state finals. Mansfield got a little bit of redemption, 4-2 over Riverside. Now, this one went into extras, went into 8 innings, and then it was 1-1. And then, what was it? Yeah, that's right. 1-1. Mansfield scored 3 runs, and then Riverside was able to get 1 in the bottom of the 8th, but couldn't finish it up. And here's the deal. The biggest story of this, unfortunately, was the controversy in the 7th inning. So there's 2 outs, runner on second. Carly, I think it was it Carly Jo Womack, I believe? Yeah, Carly Jo Womack was on second. And then I'm not even going to say names because I know I'm going to get them wrong. But either way, they had a runner on second. They're up to bat. I believe it was a 1-2 count. Then they hit the ball to short. Ball gets thrown over to first base. And they called her out. Dorian Kraft had said they got her on the broadcast. Well, we pretty much all thought, and of course the coach coaching Riverside at first base was definitely pleading his case, but I thought that she was safe. I'm just telling it like it is. I thought she was safe. I tweeted that in my game updates that I was putting out. And as immediately after that happened, as we're kind of getting the, I guess at this point, so that was at the bottom of the 7th, So at this point, we're going to extra innings. Dorian Kraft shot me a text. We were texting throughout the game, and she said, "What's the overwhelming consensus in the booth?" And I'm like, is she safe? There's no question. I think we all pretty much agree with that. Now, I'm not going to go on here and bash any umps or anything like that, but at the same time, too, I'm not going to look our loyal audience in the eyes and lie to you and say what I didn't see. I saw that she was safe. That's my opinion. Now, do I think, because I've seen what I feel like is proof. Now, there's also some things out there that completely lost them to the game. I don't buy into that either because, and again, I think it was Carly Jo Womack that was at second. But as she was rounding third, and Jared, you and I talked about this, the throw got to first. So barring like a wild pitch or something like our pass ball, whatever, however it scored in that regard, that's not guaranteed that that's going to win the game. Now, did it change the momentum of the game? That's a strong argument. But again, nobody's on here bashing umps or anything like that. But I'm just telling what I saw, and she was safe at first.
Oh, I watched it several times back, and I would say full speed live in the game, it was really close and really hard to tell.
Sure.
I wouldn't argue with the umpire full speed watching it live. The first time I watched it full speed, I was like, man, that was really close. I couldn't tell. Watching it in slow motion, watching it back, and if you had the benefit of replay in the state championship, that would definitely be one that you said, you pull out the red flag and go, give me the replay. So, but put the old earmuffs on. Let's go to the replay. But definitely doing it live in game right then. That's a super tough call, and it's a bang bang play. Watching it in slow motion, I think she's safe also. Now, everybody could say, "Oh, well, that's the walk-off run that scores." Well, I look back at the replays multiple times. The runner was rounding third as the play was caught at first base. If she had been called safe, they still had an opportunity to throw home, and it would have probably been a bang bang play at home, whether she was out or safe at home. If she'd been called safe at first. So, I wouldn't say one way or the other that won or lost the game, but it definitely extended the game, and it definitely took away the chance of the play at home that might have won it right there in the bottom of the seventh. Regardless of that, the thing that I want to make the biggest point of, and the thing that has been incredible to me through her whole career, is look at what Allison Edwards did in the circle. You take all the controversy away, you can take everything else away, get it down to what really matters in this ball game is Allison Edwards was exceptional.
Absolutely.
She pitched an exceptional game. I'm not going to take an ounce of anything from that kid because she just did an exceptional job. She threw the ball well. She commanded the zone. 15 strikeouts in the state championship. That's nails, and she's been amazing her whole career in every sport she's played. I think this makes her 5th overall state championship between volleyball, basketball, and softball.
8th appearance.
Just mind-blowing the career that Allison Edwards has had, and she deserves every ounce of praise that she could possibly get because you just don't see kids. She is a generational athlete, without a doubt. I can't say enough about her and the job that she's done. Definitely lots of other great plays and lots of other good ball players in this game. Lots of things that that need to be talked about. But that's my key point is that Allison Edwards went out there and she found a way to get it done for her team.
We're reading each other's minds tonight, I swear, because when you were talking about BB and you mentioned those 3 for 3, you're the 2 that went 3, I was going to follow up with that. And that's exactly what I was going to follow up your response about this is, yes, there was controversy, but you can't overlook the fact that she struck out 15 batters and won another, or I guess this is her first MVP that she's won because Riverside had lost to or Mansfield had lost the previous 2, but this is her third state finals in 3 years, not third straight. They went in 2021, last year, and then this year. So starting 3 times in the finals. As you said, the 4-time volleyball state champion, and then went to basketball this past March. But in the past 2 state finals, she struck out 31 batters. That's just unbelievable. I mean, truly phenomenal. So
Insane.
you don't want to take away at all from that. Yes, I know that that's going to be that the 7th inning is going to be a lot talked about, but you also need to really, as you mentioned, and you did a great job laying it all out. This Mansfield Lady Tigers team deserves to be celebrated. Just kind of like I had gone on about Atkins last week and all that those seniors did. This 2000 and Kinsley Ward is another one. That's truly an exceptional multi-sport athlete. She's their shortstop. She's going to go play for my good friend Chris Richardson at Crowley's Ridge. They're going to go play basketball up there. Just another phenomenal athlete, great in volleyball as well. Her and Allison have just been a great duo for that 2024 senior class, and there's plenty others that you could point to. But, yeah, I mean, Mansfield, they've won, I'd say, well over 100 games in the past 4 years, and they were probably the best team in Class 2A over the past few seasons that had not won a state championship, but that all changed on Saturday.
Well, I think I remember seeing that Allison Edwards passed the 100-win mark in her pitching career, which is absolutely insane. But I'll tell you the other thing, and there's a lot of good hitters in this Mansfield lineup. And you mentioned Kinsley Ward, and she's a great ball player and has done a good job, and she had a big hit. Allison Edwards' bat is feared almost as much as her pitching, and a way to prove that, she was walked 5 times in this state championship game.
I think one of those was intentional, but nonetheless, they pitched around her. You're right.
Yeah, absolutely pitched around her. One intentional, and that's they respect her bat. They know that her bat is feared, and that's a game changer in itself. If you put your leadoff on base 5 times for sure, I mean, you're going to give up some runs right there. And that's, that right there is enough to change ball games. Plus her arm and circling the athlete that she is just everywhere on the field. Like I said, I can't say enough about Allison Edwards and the career she's had. What she did in this game was exceptional. Just, and I'm not trying to take anything away from Riverside. They're a great ball team. They won it last year.
They got a lot coming back, amazing. Just about everybody.
Yeah. Claire Womack is an amazing pitcher, and maybe she didn't have her best game in this game, but she has absolutely chewed up hitter after hitter after hitter for the last 2 years for sure. And she is one that is a lot of fun to watch, and watching her breaking pitches is a lot of fun to watch. I remember last year watching these two go at it and just sit there and strike out batter after batter after batter in the state championship. And the only thing I hate is that we won't get to see another matchup between those two, because it's been a lot of fun the last 2 years.
Yeah, it sure has. Yeah, two of the state's very best, regardless of classification. And then last but not least, in Class 1A, I've mentioned multiple times over the past week that there's just really not much more to say about Taylor that has not already been said. They did complete the 7 consecutive. This one is consecutive, not like Sheridan's that I said earlier. 7 consecutive state titles, which no team in baseball or softball, regardless of classification, has won that many in a 10-0 win over Scranton in 6 innings. 10 all-time state titles now in Taylor. Just an incredible performance. Great performance by Ayla Buford. They were exceptional base running. They stole 8 bases. I think Madison Lindsay, the senior catcher, led with those, which the Lindsays, by the way, I mentioned on the baseball podcast, they're probably going to have to get another room, not another shelf, another room for all the trophies that they've accumulated from all their kids over all these years. But the Twins have accumulated enough as it is. But just incredible. I mean, to continue to do this every single year, and especially when you have all that pressure, people just expect you to be there at this point. And that's just kind of the way it is when you win all the time. But I also want to give my due credit again to Scranton, Coach Bateman, what they did there to do what they did, going from 2-10 to winning 14 straight to make it to the finals. I think this is going to be a team to watch for. Scranton, obviously Taylor is. Scranton's going to be one to watch really next year, even if they get off to a slow start. They've shown in the past 2 seasons, the back half of the season, you've really got to watch out for them. So I give a lot of credit to Coach Bateman and what her staff has been able to do this year and their team. But, man, Taylor, just adding to that dynasty what a juggernaut that school and program is.
Well, I'm mind blown by what Taylor has been able to accomplish, and I've heard all week, people going, "Oh, Taylor needs to move up to 2A or 3A." They've won 7 straight, and have a little respect for just being great. Let the kids celebrate what they've accomplished. I get so sick of people saying because a team or a program is really good that they need to move classifications. Taylor's numbers don't support moving classifications as a school. It just doesn't support it. They're a small school. They have built a program that little kids look up to the older kids. They start playing rec ball and travel ball at early ages to get a chance to be able to play on this high school team. The program that has been built in Taylor, not just this team, not just this coach, but coaches before this and coaches before that, they have built a program that has been there for year after year after year. And, you've heard me say before, there's not a lot else to do in Taylor, Arkansas. They get to play softball and they get to play baseball, or they play volleyball or basketball, but there's just not a lot there. You're in the middle of a bunch of pine plantations in South Arkansas. And so what they have is they have a great community that supports their athletics, and they have parents that support the coaches, and they have a great program. And don't sell anything short, and don't worry about whether they need to move classifications. Just have respect for what these amazing kids have done and the blood, sweat, and tears that they've done, and appreciate it. And I can't believe that this group of seniors and what they've accomplished, that group of seniors at Taylor right now, don't take an ounce of anything away from them, because those kids, they are really good. And it hasn't just been, they dominated 1A, because you look back at their careers, they played a ton of upper classification schools every year, and they've dominated 3A, 4A, 5A schools for years. So they're a great program at a small school that's doing it right and teaching their kids to be great human beings and to be exceptional on the field. Just respect that and appreciate it and give them their due.
Yeah, they beat 5A finalist BB, 6A quarterfinalist Conway. That's not too shabby if you ask me. But, yeah, these people in their mother's basement, they've always got something to say. So, but looking at the senior class, yeah, talk about I don't want to name all of them because I know that I'm going to miss one. But, the ones that we've known for, of course, Madison Lindsay, Reese Fowler, Heidi May. Of course, Heidi didn't play last year because she was an injury. She was nursing an injury. Michaela Downs. I'm missing some of the. I've got the names in front of me. I just can't remember all the classifications. But there's about 7 or 8 of them. It's a very large class. And I also wanted to go through, so I shorted them a little bit. And so it was 9 stolen bases. There was 3 by Madison Lindsay and also Lily Sewell. Heidi May got 1. Michaela Downs, or maybe it was Macy Downs. It just sounds M Downs. That's what I hate about the box scores when they're when the first name's abbreviated. But one of the Downs sisters or players, assume they're sisters, and then Madison McClellan. So 9 stolen bases. Now, Coach McHenry likes to be aggressive on the base pass. We know that. But I don't know that I have seen 9 bases. I'm not going to say I've never seen it before, but it's been a long time.
Huh? Oh.
And then you certainly can't forget about Ayla Buford in the circle. 6 innings pitch. Of course, obviously she pitched that complete game, gave up only 2 hits, struck out 5, and then won her 3rd consecutive state tournament MVP. That's incredible, Jared. To be a junior and have 3 consecutive state tournament MVPs, I'm not sure there's many that can say that.
Well, I think you've heard me talk about Ayla Buford before. I don't know, maybe just a little bit. But I'm going to talk about her some more. She's just an exceptional human being. She is a great kid. She loves everybody she runs into everywhere. She's always I don't know that I've ever seen her down. She's always positive. She's always working. There's not a kid anywhere that works harder. She's in the weight room. She's running sprints. She's doing something. She always works to get better. but what she's accomplished on the field over the last 3 years is nothing short of insane. I mean, it's kind of like Allison Edwards at Mansfield. It's just she has done a great job. She's helped carry her team. There's a lot of great ball players at Taylor, a lot of great hitters. They've got a great defense, but she has definitely been an exceptional pitcher and done her job. And she's a great hitter. I mean, look at her ability to get on base. And it's like she stole that base and she slid so hard she overslid second and got called out on the first thing in that game the other day. She just goes hard at everything she does, and she's, like I said, can't say enough about her as a player, as a person. Just the belief system that she has and the confidence that she has. And it's just, some kids are just raised right and taught right, and she's definitely one of them. And she's taken it to heart. And I can't say enough about her. Of course, obviously she's on my team, on my travel team, and I know a lot about her. I know her heart, her character. But nobody anywhere can argue with her ability and what she's proved on the field.
And that concludes the 2024, at least game coverage, or at least the game coverage of the season from beginning to end. And now we get to the announcement that we have been waiting to tell you. So whenever, and this is kind of something that we had thought about with the previous outlet, but to be frank, there was only so many things that we were able to do within our control as far as, now, don't get me wrong. I usually went to them with an idea. 9 times out of 10, I got it approved. But one thing that we wanted to do was to continue doing things into the summer on a weekly basis to keep people engaged, but also just because, we enjoy doing this. Truly, doing this podcast is one of the highlights of my week, along with doing it with Kevin. I really enjoy this to highlight the kids, to talk about the week. But since we don't have any sports going on now until August, what we are going to do is each week we're going to do our best. We're going to have a guest, but we're going to do our best to have at least for the next couple of weeks, keep it soft, maybe for the next month or so, keep it softball and baseball exclusive. So going to have maybe some coaches, players as well, and just kind of get them on to talk about their story, to talk about some of the adversities that they face, to talk about some of, obviously, their career, their recruiting, playing travel ball, and that's the players, of course, but the coaches will talk about maybe when they played, and also coaching in today's age, that things are much different than they were. But just a way to keep engaged, to keep people entertained, and just really keep content coming out each week, but also to help the athletes, because that's one thing that we love to do here is obviously uplift, but at the same time too, we love to get motivational stories from people that have been there. Those that are playing in college right now, they experienced a lot of the same struggles and adversity that our athletes are facing today. Also, some of the same successes. And they'll tell stories of how to deal with those things, the positives and the negatives. So we're really excited about this series. The softball first guest, we're not exactly sure who that's going to be next week. We're still working that out we've got 2 that we're probably going to do one after the other, but we are going to do baseball with Ethan Bates. He's from Lakeside, graduated from Hot Springs Lakeside, and then played for the Razorbacks, now plays for Louisiana Tech, has had a breakout year for the Bulldogs. So Kevin Bohannon will be interviewing him. So we're going to start that baseball with him, and then we will make an announcement about softball later in the week. But Jared, I'm really excited about this one. I know there's some other things that we're talking about as well that I know that you just got to kind of take it, as I've learned, got to take it one step at a time. And we're really excited about this, to do this into the summer. Of course, as we get more into the summer, closer to football season, we'll probably do some football stuff, have some coaches, maybe some college athletes as well from the gridiron. But at least for the next month, we're going to focus on it from a softball and baseball perspective, and we are very excited about this series.
I'm super excited about this, and I'm really super excited about our first guest that you're going to have in baseball. I personally got to watch Ethan Bates grow up literally out my front door, because his driveway was about 30 yards from our driveway straight across the street. He is a great kid, just one of the hardest working kids you've ever been around. exceptional character, exceptional young man. He's had 2 exceptional years at Louisiana Tech. I would have loved to see him have those years in a Razorback uniform, but it didn't work out that way. But I knew that that was not going to hold him back. He was a hardworking kid with a lot of talent, and just really cool to be able to watch a kid that you watch grow up. He walked around our neighborhood, in our several little houses right here close together. He was always out there messing with his hunting dogs and shooting squirrels out of the trees, and he was out there, doing tee work and hitting and throwing, and just, him and his dad Roger were out there all the time and doing something to get better. And just to get to have him as a guest, I'm super excited about hearing that one. And I may have to make a guest appearance on the baseball side for a minute just to throw my 2 cents worth in there.
Head up, Cabo, for that one.
Yeah. But definitely, I know we won't talk about any of the other names, but I know a few of the guests we have coming up over the next few weeks that we've been talking to work on lining this up. We're going to have some great softball content coming up. Some really good players, some really good coaches. And we've got 3 or 4 more that we're reaching out to that are going to go on a little later, a few weeks down the road. So I'm excited about the whole thing. I'm excited to be able to just continue to get out there and grow the game. I've heard a couple critics that are like, oh, y'all are just trying to get on, get your name out there. Hey, we do this to grow the game. We don't make hardly any money for doing it. We do this podcast to grow the game of baseball, to grow the game of softball, to help young athletes in the state of Arkansas. And if you think otherwise, then I'm sorry, you're just missing the boat, because everything we do is we love these kids. We love this game, and baseball and softball, and that's what we're here for. We want to grow the game. We want to continue to build the quality of baseball and softball in the state of Arkansas. And, if we got some financial support and some sponsors that made it where it was easier to make money, that's great. But we're doing it for almost nothing right now. And I'm going to tell you, I'll keep doing it as long as I've got breath in me, that I want to grow the game and help these kids. So that's what we're here for.
Yeah, and we would certainly love the support. We've notched a couple of sponsors, and we would certainly love to bring on more, because we will certainly make it worth your while. And you can definitely reach out to us. Kyle.Sutherland, SUTHERLAND 54 at Gmail is my email address, and we would love to talk to you. But or you can email APW, Arkansas Preps Weekly, APW at naturalstatesports.com. Would love to get to have you on, and we've got some references available that would show you that we can make it worth your while. But before we get off here, I do want to share one story of why we do what we do, or at least why it makes it rewarding for you and I. I haven't even told you about this yet, Jared, but I mentioned it on the baseball podcast too. But I received a text message from a friend of mine from college. I'm not going to say what school that she teaches at, but it was a state tournament team, so that narrows it down into 16 or whatever. But last week's episode, I got a text from her, and she sent me a video. It was of some of her students that were softball players that were watching the podcast on YouTube. And she was like, oh, they're listening to this in study hall or whatever. I recognize your voice, because I guess I have a distinct voice, or so I've been told. But she starts telling me about it, and at first they were a little bit nervous, because they're kind of like, oh, well, what is he going to say about us and all these different things? Well, they really like that. That made them, I think her exact words were, is it made them happy to hear these things, to hear that, we were crediting their team for making that run. And that makes, maybe other than being told I'm a great father, that's probably the best compliment that I can receive, is that, because that's exactly why we do this. Because look, I don't pull punches. I think people have learned that about me, but I feel like I'm pretty reasonable. I don't believe that I've ever said, I've done over 500 podcasts in my life. Now, when I did college podcast, I was a little more critical. You can be a little bit more tough there. I was never harsh though. But I don't personally feel like I've ever said anything that's out of line. And I've never mostly been accused of that. But I bring that up to say that we deeply love these kids. We truly do. And the thing about it is, Jared and I are both fathers. We're both fathers of girls. And we understand, now him more so than me, because his daughter's a lot older than mine, but we understand some of the things that you might go through in life. And we are truly here to help every one of these kids, whether it be they be in a slump and they need just a word of encouragement to help get their name out there to college coaches within our power. But to hear those kind of compliments, that's why we do what we do. And Jared, you talked about how we're not doing this for much money. That right there, and I think I can speak for you, that is enough payment for me right there to hear those kinds of things.
Absolutely. I get calls and texts all the time and messages say, hey, thank you for mentioning my girl. She was having a tough week and she heard you say that, she was a great ball player, and it helped give her a little bit of confidence back. And she went out there and she had a hit. I had literally had 2 messages this year during the season. They're like, hey, I really think that you mentioning her name helped her kind of get her confidence back. And I'll tell you, that's what it's all about. And there's a lot of people in this state that are trying to make a living off of kids, and they're not in it for kids. They're in it for what they can make off of them and everything else. And just be in it for kids. Be in it for for baseball players, softball players, whatever sport it is. If you've got anything to do with youth, do it for the right reasons. Whether you can, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with making a few dollars off of it or anything else, but just have a heart for kids and you're going to be just fine in the state. I know that's why we do it, and I appreciate all the other people across the state that are doing it for the same reasons.
Yeah, and we certainly appreciate all of you who stuck with us through the switch in April. It was unfortunate circumstances, and I mean this with all positivity and with all respect. But I think probably in hindsight, it was probably best for both sides. I think that they're doing their thing and we're doing our thing, and we're both doing well. Both sides are doing well. So that's what's important. And we hope that you'll stick with us through it. I think that this is going to be a big hit with some of these various athletes that you might have watched in high school, or some of these coaches that you followed for a while, but we're looking forward to it. So thank you all so much. Cannot say thank you enough. If you are watching on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed. Hit that notification button. That way whenever we release these episodes, as we just talked about, we're going to keep releasing things every week through the summer, and then on into the school year next year. We're going to start back with football and all those good things. So definitely check that out on YouTube. You go to naturalstatesports.com, see our final rankings for both baseball and softball. And then, of course, you can subscribe to the podcast on all of the audio platforms as well. Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen, we are there. So for Jared Hawthorn and all of us here at Natural State Sports, my name's Kyle Sutherland. We will catch you next week with some special guests.